Come on in. How are you? Good to see you. Happy Wednesday. Happy 4th of July if you're in the United States. Or if you just want to say happy 4th of July, that's just a national holiday for the US, but I think the world knows that we celebrate it. And if you were in New England, you probably had, or Maine, you had rain this weekend. So sorry about that. Hope you needed some watering here and there. I just came in from mowing the yard, so I'm a little bit hot. I'll cool down here in a few minutes. And Amy Haible is our co-host today. Thank you for being here, Amy. Good to see you. Amy also lives in Maine. Did you get a lot of rain, Amy?
We went over to a friend's house for a little barbecue, and the weather report said no chance of showers. And thank heavens they had this thing that came out over the roof so we could sit in a protected area. It just poured. The whole time. It just poured. And now the sun's come out and it's like 90% humidity and 82 degrees.
Right. Yeah. So here's the test of how you're doing. Whatever happens, I don't mind.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You just sort of, you say, oh, it's raining. Oh, it's so hot. Oh, it's too cold. So, you know, you have to step back and identify that person is never happy.
No.
Yeah. That's all of us, you know, but there's a default, you know, and this is where these teachings really, it's not just flippant stuff. This is really good teaching. And our default is that old, you know, the Jews really demonstrated that the most in that 40 years of being in the wilderness with Moses. They were the most complaining people. They sort of set the tone for complainers, and then the world caught on to that, and we all signed up for the not being satisfied or not being happy.
Well, you know what I caught myself doing, and was thinking, well, at least we're not in Texas, because it could be 115. And that is just another form of complaining. It's just comparing and saying, well, my brother and sister are worse off than I am, therefore I must be okay. No.
That's true. Well, I knew I saw William Price, big smile, because he's in Austin, Texas. And I know how hot it is there. It gets really hot in Austin, Texas. And I used to build houses in Austin up near Lake Travis. And in the summertime, oh my God, if you were digging trenches and it was summertime, you were baking.
Oh.
Yeah. And we built houses right next to the lake. We got to look at the water, but we didn't often go in it when we it was just, you know, you're working. But anyway, some places are super hot. And if you're, I don't know what the temperature is in England. What's the temperature over there, Jenny? Is it hot over there? I know we're digressing, but forgive me. But let's have a little fun here.
It's cool, not hot.
Oh, is it cool? Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll be visiting England. I'll be going to Italy on the 23rd of September, UK on the 28th, I think, 26th to the 29th, and then Amsterdam on the 30th. So I'll be visiting that side of the pond.
Wow. Are you going to be doing interviews, or what are you doing?
Yeah, we have 8 interviews. No, we have 4 over there. We're doing 4 interviews for the next film. and for Living Presence. And we have Tom Doss and Steve
Great.
Taylor in the UK.
Great.
We have Shakti in Sicily, and we have Bernardo Kastrup in Amsterdam. Or actually, he's
Wow.
in a town called Eindhoven.
Wow.
But anyway, and also for you for those of you that have been financially supporting the film, it's a crowdfunded film, and I really appreciate you coming through to pay for those airline tickets. That right there was about $10,000, and we still have lodging and food, but it was crowdfunded. So thank you if you were part
Where
of
do we
that.
go to do that, Bill?
It's awakeningmindfilms.com.
Okay.
Lindsay, if
Okay.
you're here, put the link in the chat for that. It's awakeningmindfilms.com, and there's a link to the film, and there's a link to Indiegogo donate page. And some of you have donated for that. I really appreciate it. And so part 2 and maybe even part 3, we might be filming for parts 2 and 3 for this next episode. I had the film team on the Zoom call last night, and we're really talking about the screenwriting and the storyline, and it's exciting. Living Presence, and I think part 3 might be Staying Awake. So it really exciting.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, Jenny, I'm glad that you're on this call as usual. Always glad when we're reading this book, because when I looked at what lesson 191 and 192, I was kind of like, oh, holy Batman, this is pretty, this is complicated. It's not really that complicated, but I think because the terminology is a little foreign, and he does kind of digress a little bit, but anyway, glad that you're on this call.
Holy Batman. That's a
Yeah.
good one.
Yeah. I'm his sidekick,
This is
Robin.
definitely a G-rated film room, you guys. That's good. Thank you, Amy. I don't care what words you use, but I think that one's pretty cool. Yeah.
Okay.
And I know my daughter, if my granddaughter is listening, appreciates it too. Okay, so we're looking at 192. Oh, and before we start, we don't have a co-host for next week, and I'll put the new schedule on the website. I have all 3 schedules made up, but they've only been posted. I only posted the first one, and I'm looking at it over there. James Gillette dropped out. Jenny Sheehan, and he's next week. Jenny Sheehan is taking July off, and then Rosalind Rourke, and then Joel Drasner's not here anymore. Verena Sophia. So we're short co-hosts. So if anyone wants to co-host, send me an email.
Okay.
And let me know you're available, because it looks like we don't have one for the next 2 weeks. And Rosalind Rourke is on the 26th of July, but then we don't have one for the 9th of August. William Price is the 16th. Jenny Beal is the 23rd of August. So I'll post this schedule on the website, and you can take a look at it and fill in where you can, because this is all volunteer. So we need your help. If we're going to have co-hosts, I don't want to just listen to me, and I think there's a lot more to add than just me. So there you go. Thank you all for supporting this space. It's a free space for your benefit of awakening and just staying in touch with the content. Okay. Are we on 191?
Yep.
All right.
Yep. So this one and the next one are about Sat, Chit, and Ananda. And the questioner asks, are Sat and Chit, it's not Sit, it's Chit, right? Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. Are they essential for perception? And Sat, as he describes it in the Atma Darshan, I had to look it up just to make sure I got his definition. And he basically defines Sat as life absolute, so the ultimate life. And Chit is knowledge absolute, so ultimate knowledge. And he uses knowledge and consciousness interchangeably. And then Ananda is bliss absolute. So he says, perception is possible only through Sat, which is existence, the I am, the life absolute, the I am, and Chit, or consciousness or knowledge absolute. And because you can only perceive something existing. And so then he says, this brings in Sat, which is life absolute, or the I am.
Right.
Perception has to be illuminated by knowledge to enable it to function. And this brings in Chit also. So you can, well, the way I interpret that is you can only perceive something that exists with something that exists. That's the way that in essence, consciousness is self-luminous. Consciousness, knowledge, aliveness, life knows itself. And that was how I encapsulated it. And because then he goes into the second paragraph and says, Sat is no Sat until it shines, which is where the self-luminous element got brought in for me. And consciousness has necessarily to be there for Sat to shine. Therefore, both aspects of Sat, or I am, and consciousness, Chit, are essential for perception. The Sat aspect of the self or the reality is not generally taken by itself and elaborated upon, because the elaboration of consciousness, the consciousness aspect, brings in the Sat aspect also. So,
Wow.
I know. So life absolute illuminates itself through consciousness. It shines with its own awareness of itself. Both life and consciousness are essential for self-illumination. These two aren't usually taken apart in discussion, because any discussion of consciousness has to include life absolute in it. What is not alive cannot be conscious. That's how I took that.
So, and it's not talking about a thinking conscious.
No.
It's talking about being. It's talking about pure, absolute beingness.
Yes.
It's not a thinking mind idea.
No. So the I am and consciousness are the same. And here he's taken them apart. He says they don't usually get taken apart. And I don't know if Dr. Beal has any comments upon this, but if she does, just
Hey, Dr.
pipe in
Beal.
there, baby, because we could certainly use your illumination.
Yes, he's really, all he's talking about is the union of consciousness and being. Being is reality, and that's why he's saying that it shines. When it shines, then there is perception, because that's the consciousness aspect, is the shining, the awareness. But the two are essentially the same.
And
Great.
this would be a description of why or how it is that we can verify awareness as I am.
Yes. Yeah.
This is just using different, it's using different language and words and but this is how we can verify it. It's not something that you have to sit in a cave and it takes 25 or 50 years. Everyone has access to the same Sat Chit Ananda.
Yes, I is consciousness. What is it that is aware of our experience? It's I. I is consciousness. Am is being. So the I am expresses the unity of consciousness and being.
Right. Thank you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We by the authority that I don't have, I give you an honorary PhD, Dr. Beal. Thank you. Funny. Yeah, you are very helpful, Jenny. Thank you. And Amy, what else do we want to look
Well,
at?
you know, then he goes on to use, you know, to make it a little bit more confusing, but also because he seems to really like to state this in as many ways as he can to make sure we get it. And so in the third paragraph, he says, existence in itself is dharmi, and dharmi is the holder of qualities. It's the I am in many ways. It's consciousness. It's self-illuminating knowing. So it's the holders of qualities, which is itself unaffected by the qualities that it holds. So it's the ultimate container, if you want to talk about it like that. So it's the dharmi, which stands united in the many things of the world. So the dharmi is one, it is united, even though the world seems to be separate objects. And he says, on that same unity of dharmi sits all extended space, which is just dharma. And dharma is the qualities that are held within the dharmi. So the dharma sits within the dharmi, and the dharmi holds all extended space, which is the quote unquote supported world of changes. And then he goes on and says the meaning of sat or dharmi, which is sat, which is life absolute, or I am, which is the dharmi, or the qualified, the holder, is the background of all objects. So he's just saying I am awareness is the background of all things that arise within awareness. And dharmi exists in many dharmas. It exists in many varieties or qualities. It's that which is limited to itself. I am is limited to itself. It's the final knowing is I am. There is nothing else but the I am when you go all the way back. So dharma, which are all the qualities, can never exist in anything other than dharma. So objects exist in objects.
Wait a minute. You mean dharma only
Dharma.
exists in dharmi?
Dharma can never exist in anything other than dharma. So a quality, an object. I know it's hard because we think of dharma as the work, but dharma and dharmi are not. Dharmi holds dharma.
Right.
So dharma can never exist in anything other than dharmi, than dharma.
Okay.
Dharmi is subject and dharma is object. So dharma can only exist in dharma. Dharmi is subject and dharma is object. I know it
sounds like those are backwards. It sounds like dharmi is like is awareness, and dharma is object.
That's right. That is correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And so Jenny says all objects have the same reality, dharmi. I'm sorry. I'm confusing myself. Let's just get through this here, and I'll try and keep the dharmi and dharma together.
Amy, you are doing amazing. You don't cut yourself short here. You're way ahead of me. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So then he goes to give an example of a human being. And he says, a person is dharmi, or the holder, in relation to their body, their senses, and their mind, which are dharmas, or qualities. So the body has certain qualities, which include senses, mind, arms, legs. And then he says, separated from the dharmas, or the qualities, the dharmi, the one that recognizes those qualities or that holds those qualities, is only one, impersonal and ultimate. And thus the human, the tree, the animal are as dharmi, the same reality itself. As Jenny just said, all objects have the same reality, which is dharmi. This is why, I mean, it's kind of, it's what we have to work with here. And then he goes on, and this is even more specific. He says, generally we say its existence, and this is not correct, for this would mean the it would remain over even after existence has disappeared, and that could never be. Really, even after the disappearance of the it, existence pure would still continue. Therefore, we should really say existence its. Here, existence would remain over even after the it has disappeared. So I love what William Price just said. Dharmi is the womb of all being. It's the mother of everything. And with the womb in which we all exist. And then he just restates what we all already know, which is that existence, or sat, never comes and goes. When all objects vanish, sat alone remains over. And the last thing, which is actually reminds me of something that I just read in Jean Klein's book, which I don't have in front of me. He says, if you make the attempt to think that you're non-existent, which is an interesting meditation, is to ponder the idea, I do not exist. The principle that makes the attempt will just jump over from that category of objects and just becomes the subject, the principle who attempts to think. And
that's a cool idea.
it is an interesting idea to just play with, I don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who is the I that thinks that I don't exist?
Well, you can, I mean, it seems like you could jump over it in contemplating. You just relax into being, and there's nothing it's happening. But it just is.
That's well said. That's right. That's clear. Yeah. It kind of reminds me of something Jean Klein said, which actually was really helpful to me, which is when you're in meditation, or you're sitting and you work your way back into this sort of sense of nothingness, and the I becomes associated with just nothingness, which is kind of a dismal place to be. He says, recognize that the I is the one that is perceiving nothingness, and then you'll go right beyond it. And I found that extremely insightful for some reason or another.
What's the dismal part?
Well, there are those of us who see the nothingness and feel like it's empty. It's just empty.
That's the mind.
Yes. And so recognizing we'll get into it, I think a little bit further on, but I probably shouldn't have brought that up. But if one does get stuck in the nothingness, working oneself back, just recognize that it's the I that is perceiving the nothingness. All objects have the same reality. This is Jenny. Yes, nothingness is an object. Therefore, you need to go beyond it to reach pure consciousness, which is a fullness of potential, although empty. Perfect. Exactly. Dr. Beale strikes again.
Funny. Yeah, that was good.
So, yes, and Susan Wright says, I read recently that many people at first exposure to these teachings think that nothingness means meaninglessness.
Right.
And that's another good,
The
yes.
nothing, it's the nothingness of everything.
Yes. The no thingness is full of infinite potential. That's to Dawn, it's from Dawn.
Well, where does, when I was living at Muji's place, they talk about, I lived at his ashram about, I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago, and several times for 2 or 3 months at a time. And they would speak of this is your dharma. They would speak of, I remember I wasn't, I didn't, if you don't like what you're doing, if you don't like what you're working on, but you still got to work on it, it's like, it's your dharma. I don't really know how that fits into this use of dharma.
Yeah, that's what confused me too. So I was going back and forth looking up words.
Right.
So it's good. It's good that we're doing this.
So Jenny, what is that use of the term, or William, what does that use of the term dharma mean?
Yes, when used in the sense that Muji was using it, and it's very common, then it really means your natural role or your natural function in life. That's what should be happening. That's what you should be doing.
Oh, okay. So it's just, you don't have any choice. It's on your schedule.
Well, yes. I mean, there may be choice within a dharma, but the dharma, it's all the circumstances in life, which is where you are, which has set you on a particular course and particular role.
Okay. All right.
I always looked at it as though, and maybe this is the wrong definition, but as kind of like the teaching, the work of the teaching. It's your practice. It's what you're here to, in essence, to have an experience with and learn from.
That's another meaning. All of these Sanskrit words have lots of different meanings.
Yeah.
But yes, I absolutely. The dharma is the teaching or the practice also.
Or your classroom.
Your classroom.
Yeah. Right. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
And Amy, the no, I think we finished. I think that finishes 191.
I think so.
Yeah.
This one's, I'll try and shorten up, and then the rest of them are fairly quick. But 192 is Satchidananda, how to experience it. And, he introduces it once again by saying Sat's the greatest generalization of the objects of the world. So again, it's the dharmi. That is to say, it's the existence aspect of it. And then he talks about Rama, and Rama was, oh God, I have this down here.
It becomes I exist.
Yeah. Rama is the incarnation of Lord Vishnu. So Rama is a character, but we could also call it Judy.
Okay.
Or Vicky. So the individual Rama sheds off his limitations or her limitations one by one and develops into pure sat, into sat or pure existence in the following manner. First, the person transcends their name and possessions, and in this case, it was Rama, and then his community, and then his nationality, and then his manhood or his personhood, then his living being, and then his being one whose only attribute is that he exists. And finally, he becomes one with that very existence or sat, common to all objects in this world. All of this is admitted by Rama implicitly at every stage. And this is how your inmost principle is traced out, beginning with your body. I think about this, what he says here, when I think about the ultra-nationalism that is experienced by, so many different places in the world today, and what a great lesson this is when we think of ourselves as being, the 4th of July, I'm an American, I'm a patriot. Well, is that really true? Is that what you are? Is that what I am? So he says, to have this experience of Sat Chit Ananda, you just have to employ your own knowledge or consciousness. But the method of tracing yourself back, of tracing the real self through the medium of consciousness, establishes simultaneously both the nature of your consciousness and your existence. And again, he says, usually the Sat aspect of oneself is not sought to be established separately, because consciousness keeps company with existence till it's established. And then he goes into that, the sort of what we were talking about before, that Sat Chit Ananda is positive in form, but negative in meaning. Viewed objectively, reality beyond the body and mind could be described only as nothingness. But viewed subjectively from the position of the I principle, it could never be termed as nothingness. It's peace. Nothingness in deep sleep is the svarupa, or the real nature of peace, or yourself, because you're there beyond all doubt. Nothingness in the objective world is peace in the subjective world, and that is Ananda. So in order to experience Sat Chit Ananda, you have to transcend the body, the senses, the mind, and the objective world. And she or he who experiences Sat Chit Ananda must herself or himself be Sat Chit Ananda. But this is not possible, since the subject and object can never be one. They have to be the same. They are the same. Everything is dharmi. So Sat Chit Ananda is experience itself, or the I principle. The stand from which you call it nothingness was not itself nothingness, but your svarupa, your real nature of peace.
So it sort of brings us through. He in the first 2 paragraphs, he's talking with Rama. He's talking about self-realizing.
Yes.
And waking up, and when you move to the Sat Chit Ananda, and where it says the subject and the object can never be one, that loses me a little bit, because if they're one, that they are the same. So how can the subject and the object never be? How can they never be one and be the same?
What paragraph are you in?
It's the last paragraph on 192, just above where it says, so Sat Chit Ananda is experience itself, or the I principle. Just above that, it says, But this is not possible since the subject and the object can never be one. They are one.
Maybe what he's saying is you cannot if you are I am consciousness, if you are the true Dharmi, you don't perceive the object as being separate from yourself. And I still haven't found exactly where you are, because I think I have a different book than you do.
Here, it's on page 103.
Uh-huh.
And it looks like the third paragraph down where it says, in order to experience
Okay.
Ananda, you must transcend body, senses, and mind, and the objective world. He or she who experiences Satchit Ananda must himself or herself be Satchit Ananda, but this is not possible since the subject and the object can never be one. Okay, so the two, the one can never be two is what it should be saying.
Exactly. Jenny says just the idea of a subject implies the existence of an object. It's a way of dividing.
Right. So in my mind, the two can never be one. I mean, the one can never be two.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's another way of saying it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So qualification and degree of renunciation required for initiation into the truth. And I think what he's saying is you can't fake it in this 193. You have earnestness and sincerity to know the ultimate truth is the only qualification required to receive initiation into truth. You can't fake earnestness and sincerity. These bring all that's needed. So not only can you not fake it, but you don't have to be a Mensa person. You could be a policeman. You could be a nurse. You could be a construction worker. It doesn't matter.
Right.
You just have to sincerely desire to know who you are in truth.
It has to have that. That's one of the things that, I mean, if you're here following this book study week after week, or if you're really, if you're really interested in these ideas, there's a fire in you.
Yeah.
That you can't turn off. You can't quiet down. There's a fire in you that is that burning essence of self that knows that you're true.
Exactly. To me, it's like, and I know this isn't, it's like eating candy. I really need this. I know that sounds like this is not junk food. This is soul food. It's really, and for those who aren't on this path, a lot of times they just don't really understand why is it that this is so important to you, or how is it that this interests you, which is why what you're doing here, Bill, to me is so invaluable, and I so appreciate it from the very being of my soul. Your willingness to put this out and do this is such a gift to all of us. So,
well, it's only because I've got the fire burning. that fire is that I'm speaking about, that's burning in all of you, is burning in me, and it's just and I have learned to listen to it and go with it, and I feel awesome because of it. I feel the fruits of speaking about these things, even if I don't understand them. And we've got 60 some people here, and sometimes we're over 100. This is helpful for people, and we have this venue where we can do it from our home.
Yep.
Or car. Some of you guys are driving. Lindsay's driving. Yeah.
So we just finished 193, qualifications and degree of renunciation required for initiation into the truth. And Jenny said that he is responding to, he's contrasting this sincerity and earnestness as the only two really serious qualifications with Shankara's position, which is that various prerequisites involving purification are needed first. So another fair clarification there from Dr. Beale. And then he goes on, now we're on 194. Can we move on to 194, Bill?
Oh, what did Jenny say?
She said, she says it's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 up.
I see it, yeah.
Maybe 8 or no, that's way up more than.
He's contrasting this with Shankara's position, which is that various prerequisites involving purification are needed first.
First, before.
He's contrasting that. He's saying that's not true.
Shankara is saying that there are prerequisites involving purification before you can get initiated into the truth. And
I don't agree with
Atmananda
that.
is saying, no, it's just earnestness and sincerity.
It's like and often it comes to, oh my God, this is it.
Yeah.
And it's a total overwhelm. It's your desire to wake up becomes the overwhelming factor in your life.
Yeah.
And it takes first priority and there's no second.
That's right. And it's why A Course in Miracles says, you know, the student becomes a student because they're just saying there must be another way. There has to be another way. And that's the same. And they're asking that with sincerity and earnestness.
Yeah.
And if we're ready
and the thing is, well, let's go back to that, because the thing is it only takes that instant of a commitment. It's not something you have to work. It's like something comes in and grabs you, lights the fire, and you can't unlight the fire.
Nope.
And if there's and people, I've heard many people say, I'm not getting it. I don't, you know, and there's frustration with the mind that is trying to grasp what things mean, and yet that fire, that thing that you saw or felt or you knew was true, you can't undo that, and that brings you on the path of I'm all in. Above all else, I want to know the self, or whatever that is. You don't have to. I thought, wow, I need to divorce my wife. I need to, you know, I need to sell all my stuff. I had all of these mental, you know, things happening. How do you do the things that Jesus did? You know, do you need to go and live in the wilderness? Do you need to live in a cave like Ramana Maharshi? Do you need to do what Buddha did before he found the middle way? And you don't. That's why Atmananda is such a powerful teaching of our time, even in this, especially in this time, because all the people that are watching here are in bodies, they're in their homes, watching on a computer, they have lives and families, and you can wake up sitting right there, and we are. Everyone, yes. The world is taking on a new way of waking up, right? Sitting in front of their computer. That's their Sat Guru.
That's true. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on.
Okay, so in 194, which is where we are now, and so in 193, he talked about earnestness and sincerity are required to know the ultimate truth. They're the only qualifications. Now he goes on to talk about what we were just talking about. He describes sincerity and earnestness, and he said they represent an insatiable thirst for truth. That's what sincerity and earnestness are. you just want to drink out of that well, that pure water out of that well. You want to drink it. It's insatiable, and they never belie yourself. They come from the deepest level without any desire for conspicuousness or ostentation. So they are self-illuminating. In a way, sincerity and earnestness are self-fulfilling.
Nicely said. That's true. Yeah.
And so now he's going in, if we're ready to move on.
Yes.
To 195 is what we're on now. Truth about visions. And I think all of us have had, our own versions of visions or mystical experiences. I think we talked about this a little bit last week, and I had been having several instances of knowing something was going to happen. And Jean Klein calls this a forefeeling. And he talks about forefeelings a lot. And I was kind of looking for a place to see where he defines what his forefeeling means. And maybe Francis Lucille could describe it for us sometime. But I think a forefeeling is an intuition. It's a sense. It's a knowing. It's knowingness. It's kind of what A Course talks about, just certainty, being certain without. And it's kind of an amorphous feeling. There's no specificity to it. Sometimes it's a flavor or a perfume of knowing. But what he says is that all of those are projections of your mind, and we can get attached to those. We can get enamored of them. They have a certain power that can make us feel as though we know something that other people don't know, or that we didn't know before. And he says, you don't know during the vision itself that it's just a projection of your own mind, but that's what it is. So it's only when you rise to the higher plane and you realize the previous vision to be a projection. So you kind of come down from, or come out of that lofty sense, and then you go back into your center, into your higher plane of your I am awareness. And you investigate that experience, and you realize that was just, that was just an object.
That was, yeah, right.
It was another object.
It was a state of mind, which is different. And it can be breadcrumbs. I remember was having mystical experiences when I first found the Course, and I asked Ken Wapnick. I was in one of his retreats, and he just referred to it as just breadcrumbs or signposts. Just you're don't focus on it. Just know that you're in the right place.
Right.
Yeah.
I will share this. I had a dream, and I've been having these dreams more regularly, in which I'm in this room with all my parents' antiques. My parents, especially my mother, just loved antiques, and she had many of them. And so in some of my previous dreams, I'm trying to hold on to these antiques and, figure out, where can I store these, or where can they go? Increasingly in my dreams, and this was last night, I realized that there were other people in the room that needed the antiques more than I did. And so I was trying to find people to give them away to. And I woke up with a sense of such freedom and authentic power. It was like, I want to give these away. I'm burdening myself. I'm cleansing myself of all these things, these objects, literally objects that I don't need from the past.
Oh, that's great.
And so the dream, it was just a dream. So it's in my mind. It's just an object. It's just another movie. But I took something away from it that was like, okay, that was a breadcrumb, as you said.
That's a cool reference for often those dreams don't have such a clear connection to your releasing things or your liberation. They don't usually have that close of a connection where you can read it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, you know, the one of the things I wanted to mention on 195, that second sentence, it is only when you rise to the higher plane that you realize the previous visions to be only projections. I like the idea that he's giving a sort of he's verifying that you sometimes rise to a different plane of seeing, and that activity of moving in your own psyche, or in your own mind, in your own like contemplation. So I like that he verified that that's okay, that's good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That made me think of, you from 2 dimensions, you can't see 3 dimensions, and from 3 dimensions, you can't see 4. But there's
Right.
only one, and it contains all the dimensions. Right.
Yeah.
So it reminded me of that too. So
Well,
we ready.
we see a very limited aspect of what's happening. When I was interviewing Donald Hoffman for the first film, the Know Thyself, he was saying, well, why not have, there's he said this interface is only set up to see in this limited 4-dimensional reality.
Right. Exactly.
Why not have 10 or 12 or 20 dimensional realities, or I forget the word that he used for that, but he was positing that this is a very limited interface.
When I think about aliens and other beings, I think, well, we expect to see them in 3 or 4 dimensions in space-time. Well, maybe they're not operating there. Maybe they're.
No, they're not. I have friends that do the iboga. They see the aliens in the iboga. They're right here. They're seeing, and now I don't want to see the aliens in the iboga, so I'm not gonna experiment there. I did enough experimenting when I was a teenager, but they see the aliens with that iboga stuff. They're right here, and they're sharing the space.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, hello to all of them, but we do digress here. So, okay. Yes.
Here we go.
I'm sorry. That was
page 104. We're at the top of page 104. Nirvikalpa samadhi is not the ultimate state of realization.
So Nirvikalpa samadhi is the state in which it's a temporary state of consciousness, of where you're submerged in the I am, but it's temporary.
It's almost like the bridge, though. It's almost like it's like, okay, it's like the millimeter before the end of the field of the end of the game. It's like, it's on the, it's right there.
Yeah, Bill, but don't you think that it's kind of this bliss state that you can get caught trying to recreate? And that's what he means by getting caught in the groove, because you have to allow the natural state to absorb you. You can't go seeking after it. It will.
Well said.
So
that's perfectly said. Yeah, I agree. You have reached the highest only if you have established identity with the real I principle.
Yeah.
The sahaja state alone may be said to be the highest.
That's the natural state, is the sahaja state. That's how he describes it. And he says, we are trained in a wrong groove of thinking from our very birth. We have only to give up this wrong groove and take to the right groove of thinking. I'm not sure what groove he's talking about, unless he's talking about his culture, because I don't think our culture has any groove at all. in terms of these teachings.
Right.
So
Well, Jenny is talking about Nirvikalpa Samadhi as pure consciousness without objects. And then William said, as Jenny has repeatedly said, samadhi without objects. Yeah, so Nirvikalpa Samadhi sounds like you had your awakening experience.
oh, yes. And then she says the sahaja state is going back into the world of objects and seeing all as one, feeling you are not separate. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Beal.
So
Awesome. So Kanti was asking, what is iboga? Iboga is like ayahuasca. It's some kind of it's a plant medicine that makes you lose the ego. So the ego, the personal self-identity goes away. And it's a plant medicine thing that causes that you need someone that is a professional to administer, and you need trained facilitators to do that. But it's a temporary, and I don't suggest it, because I think what I'm seeing in friends of mine that do the ayahuasca or that do the iboga, they keep doing it. It's like a drug thing, and I think the ego mindset will use it as a distraction or a delaying tactic. So I think it's much cleaner to do it in book studies or following a good teacher. So I'm not recommending it, but I do have friends that they do it.
yeah. If anyone has seen the movie, it's an old documentary called The DMT Molecule. There is a session in there. It's the documentary is, you could probably find it on YouTube. But anyway, there's a woman that does the DMT in a lab setting, in a controlled setting, and she does see aliens. And she says she goes into this space where she recognizes they're there, and they see her, and they're kind of like, what are you doing here?
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah. So we did this important topic. So thanks for not minding that we talk about it. Yeah.
So
It's just not helpful. Stay on the path of whatever tradition you're following. The teachings, awakening comes. It's gradual, and it reveals itself in the way that that you can manage, that you can handle. It's just if the earnestness is there, the desire to wake up, that's all you need. It's coming.
right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're on 197 negatives.
Yeah.
So he's I think he's just further illuminating here this discussion that he's been having a little bit since the beginning about nothingness and negatives. And he says negatives can never subsist independently by themselves because they want something positive as their background. He said some people consider the mind as a container of thoughts and feelings. So they mistake the Dharma for the Dharmi.
Right. Yeah.
If so, it should be a permanent container, which means the Dharmi. When permanency is attributed to mind, its material part, which can never be permanent, drops away. And the consciousness part, which is permanent, continues as the reality itself. Changelessness, awareness, and peace are the nature of the I principle. This is found by examining the three states impartially. By the examination of the waking state experience, we find that the I am in action, perception, thought, and feeling, but I can never be any of these as such, but only the background of all of these upon which all must come and go. Mind as thought can well be split up into its material and consciousness parts, but the consciousness part can never be further split up into the doer and the observer. You know, just take my hat off to these minds that really explored the nature of consciousness. What amazing beings.
Yeah. That was so clear. And it also gives the pointing so that you know when you're in that understanding. He's just making it more clear. I don't know about you, Amy, but when I was reading today's discourses, I would read one, and it would be like trying to read a different language for a minute, and then I'd read it a second time, and all of a sudden it was coming in.
Yes.
And it's nice to read things like this. I mean, all of us aren't where Jenny is. Jenny is she has a lot of years, and she has a gift of clarity that is very helpful in when we get stuck on things. But what we're seeing is these ideas are finding the resonating energies or resonating agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's a really good point, because I sometimes look at people like Jenny who are really have just great analytical minds, mathematics or engineering, and Francis Lucille and Rupert Spira. Just their clarity of their thinking is so direct and penetrating. And I sometimes feel like, well, you know, I just get caught up and I can't think as clearly as they do. But it is the sincerity and the earnestness and the unwavering desire for truth. And that takes me back into the reassurance to continue on this beautiful path. And so appreciative of those who do have more analytical minds than I do, who are great pointers and great teachers, but that's not a requirement.
right. Yeah.
So we ready to move on?
Yep.
See here. Okay. So we're on 198. Asam Ranjan. Well, let's see. Asam Pranjanya. I can't pronounce that. Samadhi.
Assam Prajanye.
Okay. Prajanyata. Samadhi.
I didn't see this one in the list of the ones that he spoke about in 171, that list of 6. This isn't one of those 6.
No, but the next word, Raja Yogins, I can get that. He says, after going through concentration of the mind in different planes, comes at last to mind itself and makes the mind react upon the mind itself. As a result thereof, the mind comes to a standstill, and that state is called asamrajanyata samadhi. Duality is still there. So what I've got in my notes is pleasurable experience during prolonged stillness or yogic exercises is still dual. You're still in duality.
There's an observer or there's a doer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even though it's pleasurable.
Right. That would be my reference for that would be unnecessary meditating.
Yes. And I think sometimes doing breath work in meditation, I've come to that place of just total bliss, especially on the exhale, when you just release everything into all that is. And it's a wonderful place. But it is effortful meditating. It really is. And it's great. It gives you, it's a breadcrumb, but it's not a place to get stuck and not to think, oh, that's it. And I need to meditate for 4 hours now every day.
Probably better than smoking a joint, but I mean, in my mind, this bodysuit doesn't want anything. Water, coffee with none of the. I try to keep this thing in service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's doing without being the doer. It's allowing all that is to be working through you, not taking charge or taking the reins and making something happen.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what a lot of the spiritual, even this is why Francis and Rupert and other teachers, you ask them, what's the practice? They kind of hesitate to say, okay, you don't want people to get stuck on a practice or a ritual, because that becomes another doing mechanism.
Yeah.
And the ego loves to stay on that treadmill.
It does. The one thing that I will say I've had in my experience of doing the breath work was in a 2-hour meditation at 3 a.m. I did arrive at a place. I kept asking, what am I? What am I? And I arrived at a place where I knew with absolute certainty that I truly didn't need to do anything. Just being the vehicle through which I am. And that even that this is dualistic, but just being the vehicle through which consciousness sees, explores, and is, that's enough. I could literally just sit on a street corner in New York City or downtown Des Moines and do nothing, and that would be a gracious plenty. And that was a fantastic realization. I don't regret that, because that I carry with me even now. I don't need to do anything. All of this is icing on the cake.
Yeah, I agree, Catherine. That was beautiful, Amy. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, let's move to 199.
Yep, and I think this is this it? No, we go to 200.
No,
Okay.
Yeah, 200. Yeah.
Reality to the sage and the ignorant man. To the sage, reality exists at all times, transcending time. In other words, it exists in its own right.
Mm-hmm.
If a thing does not exist in its own right, it is said to have only derived existence. This goes back to dharma and dharmi. Dharmi is the container, it's the holder.
Everything
the dharma is the quality.
Yeah.
So relatively between the pot and the earth, the existence of the pot can be said to be derived only from the earth, and that of the earth to be more real. And then he goes into the most beautiful thing. That which is unreal cannot come to be. That which is real cannot cease to be. Those who know truth see clearly between these.
That's a Course in Miracles right there.
Yeah.
Nothing unreal exists. Nothing real can be threatened. Herein lies the peace of God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, are we ready to go to 200?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how to test a question. This is inquiry. And this is great. After examining the question and the answer you expect to it, if you find that they are in the objective plane, then reject them, because that question and its answer cannot take you beyond relativity. But on the other hand, if the question and its answer lead you to the subject, the absolute, accept them, because they take you to the source beyond the relative. So after examining the question and the answer you expect to it, if you find they're in the objective plane, then reject them. So in a way, I think he's saying, like, if my question is the cat a dog? Both the cat and the dog are objects, and the question relates to objects. So I would reject that question and go right back into who is asking the question. I am.
Well, even maybe even higher than that would be just seeing the question and don't touch it.
Yes. Yes.
Just in my mind, reject means don't touch.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
And then on the other hand, if the question and the answer lead you to the subject, if they lead you back to just pure presence, just awareness and beingness, you're quietly right there.
Yes.
So the only thing that happens is acceptance is seen and known.
You know, this reminds me of something that Rupert Spira said once, and I've used this a lot. He says, ask to whose benefit does this question arise? And it would often come back, oh, it's the ego. It's the ego mind that wants to know this question.
Yeah.
That wants to know the answer to this question. Oh, who is asking this question? Well, it's my small self that's asking the question, that thinks there's an answer it needs to know. No, who's aware that the question's being asked?
Yeah. It's the identity that I'm not. It's
identity.
asking this question.
Right.
Yeah. Don said, I need do nothing has always been my favorite section in A Course in Miracles. Yeah, I need do nothing is awesome, because that's the sahaja. That's the center of the storm, and the storm is raging around and you don't touch it. You just stay right there as presence, and presence will reveal if something it needs to be done. It's informed from a quiet place.
Yes.
Having nothing to do with what's happening out there.
And sometimes it takes courage to do nothing. Because you wait and you wait. Yeah. Sometimes people are saying, why don't you do something? Which reminds me of Byron Katie, when she was with a man in the desert that was having a heart attack. And she just sat with him. And he said, why aren't you doing something? She said, I'm right here.
That's funny. Yeah. Well, that was fun. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, everybody, for
Thank
all
you,
your
everyone.
comments.
Yeah, great. All right. Well, I am going to Canada tomorrow. I'll be back on Sunday, and looking forward to doing a 3-day intensive again with the self-inquiry, 25 hours of and the reason, I mean, I can't believe I'm doing it again, but because the last time I did it, I thought, holy shit, this, I mean, when you see the schedule, the schedule for Friday is 12. I think it starts at 12. We end at 11 p.m. at night. Saturday is 6:15 a.m. and it goes to 11 p.m. So it's 12 hours of dyads where you're just doing self-inquiry with another person across from you, dyads. For 40 minutes, you take a short break, and then you take another partner, 40 minutes, short break, and you do that all day long. And what I noticed last time I was there is on Saturday, after, and a couple of people couldn't take it, they had to leave. They said, man, this is too intense. And they left. But what I saw on Saturday after a day and a half of doing these dyads, people that I sat with on Friday were waking up. They
Wow.
were having, it was like popcorn. And on Sunday morning, more than half the people that came, there were a dozen people, more than half the people had full awakening experiences. And it was so moving for me when I'm driving back. It's an 8-hour drive from here. And when I'm driving back, I'm just reflecting on the experience, and I'm going, oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think I'm going back. And I'm going back, and it's just so rewarding. I just loved it. There's no chemicals, no iboga. It's just you, and this is a big, there's this guy is there. He's like a renowned teacher that does this. He's been doing it for about 10 years. He has some really great techniques, and he'll be there. So I'm looking forward to an intensive dyads weekend. And if you want to know about it, it's awakentheworld.com. He is one of our partners on Awakening Mind Films. He's our Canadian partner, Dan Schmidt, and he has a center there in Bancroft, Canada, near Ontario, called the Samadhi Center. And he purchased 15 acres. He built a center there that has dorm rooms for men and women to hold 16 people. And he's got a full kitchen. He's got a cook, a chef that cooks for you. And he's got cabins that he built, and some people stay in cabins. And it's just a retreat center for helping people that come from around the world to come into, I think they come into Montreal and drive about an hour and a half up. And it's a place to have an intensive awakening experience. It's awesome. Anyway.
Well, Bill, I think you should do that in Maine. You have so many people that would help you.
Yeah, that's true. I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm doing the films, I'm doing the conferences, and
I know.
And I'm doing plenty of these book studies. I do courses, so I'm doing enough. But
Yep.
He has the facility. It's right. It's already built.
All right.
All right. Thank you all for being here. It's good to see you and be with you today. I'll see you next week.
Thank you all. Love
to you.
everybody.
Thank you all. And don't forget, I need a co-host for next week.
Okay.